Time warp.
Let's do the time warp, girl. All right. Are we ready?
I'm
ready
Gucci.
to go when you are.
I'm good here.
Let's hope we have a better lunch off than Elon Musk will on Wednesday.
Unique
Is he
New York.
Is he launching shit?
Unique
Wednesday.
New York.
Okay. Tomorrow?
Red
Peter's
leather,
pickled
yellow
pepper
leather.
is puny
Red
and
leather, yellow leather.
Interesting warm-ups. I just usually just take one of these. And
Ho 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 ho.
I realize we're reciting a line from Final Fantasy X. Neither of you get that joke. We can move forward. All right. Clink. Clink, clank.
Clink, clank.
Clink, clank.
Clink, clink, clank.
Hello, and welcome to Strange Happy Hour. I am one of your hosts, Brent the Jesterhead Metcalfe. Along to my right,
Handsome John for a third time in a row.
and on my left,
The dispatcher, Mark Plover.
we, of course, come to you each and every week from our secluded homes to discuss with you the very cool video game news and interesting tech news that has happened throughout the week. Of course, we can't talk about everything that has happened. We cannot talk about the fact that Google Maps is making wheelchair accessible spots easier to find.
Hopefully
Good guy, Google. Yeah. It's pretty cool. We cannot talk about the fact that Skyrim Grandma is looking to cut down her streams due to trolls. What the is wrong with you, Internet? It's like the most wholesome thing on the planet. Old lady playing Skyrim.
I saw her post a picture on Twitter. It was cute.
Yes, very cute. Very, very cute. We also don't have time to talk about the fact that it looks like Ubisoft is teasing the return of the Scott Pilgrim versus the World game. However, yeah, we do have time to discuss what we on this very show deem each and every week amongst ourselves what we like to call the important shit. There we go. See,
The important shit.
With the delay, you don't know, so I'm like, I just gotta lead into it, and then I'll get.
I don't even start until he goes, and I'm like, I'll blurted it out.
This train wreck gets worse every week.
It's so good. It's because we got to keep them separated. I think I'm going to go ahead and jump off first with my topic because it's been a while since I've gone first. And I want to discuss the Snyder Cut. So if you are living under a rock and completely unaware of the world we live in, when the Justice League movie was released, it turns out it was revealed that Zack Snyder himself has a separate cut of the film, or at least an idea of what that cut would be. So, unfortunately, during the filming, his daughter passed away, so he and his wife had to step away. She's a producer, he's the director. They had to move away. But at the same time, WB was not very happy with the direction they were going. A lot of got flack for the direction of Batman v Superman, along with Man of Steel. So they really wanted Joss Whedon to come in anyways and fix things up, and this was the perfect opportunity to do so. So they get the old Weedster in. That's a weird way to do the nickname. And he comes in and edits the film for the final cut that we see in theaters. This includes the Superman flash race at the end near the credits. This includes him coming back in the mustache issue. There's all kinds of things that are lighter in that movie compared to Batman v Superman and Man of Steel because of Whedon. However, the movie's still not very well liked. Plenty of people were very unsatisfied with it, and Zack Snyder, again, for years claimed there was another cut to it. Well, WB and Zack Snyder made amends and came out and announced that on HBO Max, right? Am I wrong? I don't know. That sounds right. Yes, on HBO Max, they'll be releasing the Snyder Cut, and they're going to be putting another $20 million into the movie. Because it's so heavy in CGI, they could not actually finish the scenes of his cut without actually investing in the CGI. Now, what's interesting about this is, one, they are not bringing back the actors at all. So I guess he has the footage. That's the only assumption we can make here.
Yeah.
Two, this is going to be released either as a film or in multiple parts. We're really not sure at this point. But what I found so fascinating about this is, one, a series of individuals who are not very nice have been vocal about this issue since day one, right? Since they found out there was a Snyder Cut, they basically were chastising Whedon, chastising WB, kind of being trolls in how they treated. And of course, when the announcement came, were even worse going after him. But two, I find this a fascinating topic because this honestly is a very interesting psychological development. Like, what does WB and other, large studios do in this regard? Because in one hand, you have a large, fervent fan base who's vocal enough that they want this thing, right? And you can arguably make more money off of it. However, you have this million. You have the other side of it where you have to spend money to make it happen. And also you are reinforcing bad behavior. Like, there's plenty of people who are completely, nice and were vocal but not angry, and they handle this properly. Right. But there's also so many people who are changing this. And literally today, David Ayer, the director of Suicide Squad, said there's an Ayer cut now. So like, he wants his version of the film out there because notoriously WB is really bad about editing out what the directors want in their films. So what does this kind of lead to in the future of filmmaking, especially in this regard, where you have these large fandoms who are going to continue to ask for it? Like, do you kowtow to them? Do you fight against it?
I think Warner Brothers is going to have to give in at some point for fandom. Like, realistically, now, not to say that people are just going to stop, watching their films because they just are so restrictive internally. They still still produce films or still, sponsor films anyway that are really great films, but the problem is that I think at a certain point, the diehard fans are going to be the ones that you lose, and those are the ones you don't.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that cowtailing, in certain circumstances, it's a little bit more different. Where this, to a lot of people, they wanted it to be better than it was.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know many people that were even really outside of just okay with the movie.
As a fervent Batman fan, which I don't think they're going to see in the final cut, but I have like the painted picture of Joker, Harley Quinn, and Batman behind me. Yeah, it was okay at best.
Yeah. So I don't see putting in $20 million. I mean, maybe they did the math. And they said, well, if you account for what we believe our major fan base is, we will make more than what we put into it and recoup a little bit more back from the original movie. If that's their entire goal, it's honestly kind of sad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that you're going to be able to save that movie, mainly because I think the other movies were also done poorly.
Bad, yeah.
So it's I think it's kind of sad, honestly. I know there's a lot of people like, we love Superman. You love Batman.
Mm-hmm.
I like them, but I'm not like a huge avid fan of reading the comic books all the time and stuff like that. Same. So it's hard for me to compare what I would want out of what, say you would want.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you feel like this is necessary, or do you feel like it's even savable doing, a cut of the movie? I mean, the movie itself, was it bad in the sense of dialogue to where it's like it's almost not savable, or was it just bad CGI? Was it, bad storytelling? I mean, it seems to be an all-around thing.
Yeah, I think the bigger issue is from my perspective, and I am not nearly as hardcore as some of these other people on the internet. Like, I will put that out there. I enjoy superhero films. I go to see them often. I've seen every Avenger film or Marvel film. I've seen every DC EU film. I don't think I've missed one yet because I recently watched Shazam, and I watched.
I gotta watch this too.
Shazam's actually pretty good. Like, Wonder Woman, Shazam are Aquaman's the other one. Those three are like, they're pretty good. But
I liked Aquaman. Aquaman was actually one of the better ones.
Yeah. I think the issue, and for me, it's one, that film is not savable. Like, it's just not. It's not just the CGI was bad. It's not just that some of the dialogue was bad. It's like overall the pacing of it's off. You could argue that another cut or an edit may fix that, but looking at his previous films, Scott Snyder specifically, right? Because he's the director. It's his vision that's going to go happen here. His movies always have similar issues. They have for quite some time. Sucker Punch, 300, and The Watchmen all suffer from too much visual stimulus and information happening at the same time, but not enough underneath the hood to justify it.
See, I think Sucker Punch is the perfect example of that, in my opinion. Like, I love that movie. Let me re-clarify. I love that movie, but there is so much going on at one time on screen. The story by itself is relatively easy to follow, but there's so much happening on screen. I guess I didn't even know he directed it, to be honest, but
Yeah.
I get what you're talking about. If you haven't checked out Sucker Punch, I recommend it. You'll understand. You'll understand as soon as you start watching some of the war scenes. It's ridiculous.
I am not a fan of that movie. I'm just going to put that out there.
Really? Okay.
I thought going into it, I didn't expect much, so I wasn't like let down or anything. But it was fun to watch.
Long hair is a burden, in case anybody's wondering. So I personally don't see there's going to be much value, because even if we get the Snyder cut, we got arguably the Snyder cut of Man of Steel, which to me is the best movie of that whole DCEU next to Wonder Woman. I actually really like Man of Steel. Like the direction they went, it's very different for Superman. I don't really like Superman a whole lot, so that's probably why it was good for me. But Batman v Superman suffered from huge issues. There's really good Superman stories out there. I tend to fall in line with the ones that are like the off kilter, like Red Sun. I've talked about a ton on this show, but also Kingdom Come, which deals with like an aging Superman, is also very interesting. Like the stuff that's not the typical run I'm against, which is the opposite for me for Batman, because I usually love the run they're going on in Batman right now. But like Batman v Superman wasn't a good movie, and that was the Snyder cut. So I don't see how you can justify spending $20 million to improve this film that wasn't good to begin with anyways.
Especially in a time where, like, even if you were to re-release it in theaters, I mean, how many people if theaters do reopen or are actually showing movies in that area, like it just, I don't see that going well. Like you would have to have it being, thrown up on Amazon or, make some kind of deal with Netflix or Hulu or whatever in order to be able to put it up there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, it's going to be on HBO Max, which is what WB owns, or at least is a part of, right? But HBO Max costs $16 a month, I think.
Well, yeah. And on top of that, there's another barrier. And it's like not like you even have an existing core group of people that are either going to continue on their subscription. I don't know how many people are going to get Max and then drop it right after they see it.
Yeah. Well, and also don't be fooled. They will release that on Blu-ray, hands down. There's going to be a Zack Snyder. Yeah. Did I say Scott? Yeah, Zack Snyder. I'm sorry. There's Scott Snyder who writes Batman, and then there's Zack Snyder who directs the movie. So my brain is.
I was gonna make a Rob Snyder joke earlier. So.
Oh, there you go. But I don't see how you recoup those losses on top of the losses of the original film. Like that alone, financial doesn't make sense to me. But then you're creating bad behavior. We're already seeing it again, not only with the fan base, but again, these directors. Like as a studio head, your goal is to make a certain amount of money while keeping a cohesive vision and bringing in the right people, right? And you will argue with creatives because they are creative. They don't care about money, or they care little about it. They care more about their vision. So it's going to go back and forth. That's natural. That is a process you have to work through. WB literally tried to drop Snyder before this whole ordeal, but because of his daughter passing away, they couldn't. So they already had bad blood, and they've made it up. Hence why this cut's coming out. But you already have another director that, like, the day after the weekend in which it was announced, is already sitting here screaming there's other versions. Like, come on. The fan base, other creatives, I just don't see how that's a benefit to you. I think it's way more hassle than any money you'll ever make off of it.
It's really sad to see that the DC universe has really been more successful in the area of like Flash and Arrow
on
CW than their actual movies. And
they just lost Ruby Rose. I mean, she was a Batwoman, and she's walking away from that. So
that can't be good. Oh my God.
She apparently didn't like the hours, which I like. She's a weird woman in the sense of she was on Netflix for a while. She's made her cameos in various films like the John Wick Part 2.
Black and John Wick.
Yeah. And so moving to the CW is a little bit more challenging. They're all in Montreal, which if you don't live in Montreal, you're there for 9 months because you're filming, like you basically film 4 episodes and then they start airing those episodes and you're filming the rest of them as it goes. So you're there for the entirety of that. And their seasons run from September. You get a break around Christmas, like Thanksgiving, they usually air an episode and then you get a break and then they pick back up in February and you're running through May. So if you don't live in Montreal, it's a hassle.
Yeah.
But even still, like, you're right. It is amazing to me that their success is on there. And it's so successful. It's so successful. They brought in Urza Miller, who plays the Flash, in a guest appearance on the show The Flash. So Urza Miller plays the Flash in the Justice League. Mm-hmm. He appeared on the show because the show builds so much more traction. His appearance there actually benefits the movies.
I seriously don't know why they just didn't try to get those guys to be a part of.
Yeah, I agree.
Movie. Even in I think they would have done just fine.
Well, for one, cohesion between your television, your movies. Two, cost. I'm sorry. Like, I do enjoy Gustin Gavin, I think is his name, or the actor who plays Flash, the actress who plays Supergirl, and Steve Amell who plays Arrow. All of them are great, but they're television actors. Like, Stephen Amell is trying to build up past that point, but that requires gigs. So it would have been so worth it for them.
Doing. I mean, there was a movie on Netflix that he was
in. Sector 8 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But my point is, from WB's perspective, like, you bring in Affleck as Batman, you keep Henry Cavill as Superman, but the rest of those teams, hell yeah, you keep them as these low-key television people. You get a good director, great acting coach, and you have them on the fucking movies. You save yourself boatloads of money.
And not to mention, I don't think that they're far from being able to be, better actors than TV. Yeah. And from what I understand, being in TV is so much harder than being a movie actor.
Hence what we were just talking about with Ruby Rose.
Yeah. And when I watched, for instance, iZombie, not to get too far off, but watching her play so many different personalities on that show was truly impressive. Especially how she between the voice, the accent, the mannerisms, how could you could do that through a movie? Probably not too hard. And say if you were to do play as kind of like a Jim Carrey character where he's a little bit all over the place. But to do for an entire show series that lasts over multiple years, God, that's just talent all over the place. So.
Well, and I heard two rumors of they don't want to connect them because of the fact that then everyone's asking, why is Batman not appearing on Arrow? And my response is the same as it has been for a while, which is you literally do this in comics all the fucking time. There's a Green Arrow comic and it's should I call the Justice League? No, I can handle it. Okay, cool. You've solved the problem for why Ben Affleck is not going to appear on the show. Done.
Or even you could do a phone conversation, a phone call.
Yeah.
That's super. He doesn't even need to be there for that. You just have a recording of the phone conversation.
And better yet, you write it into the contracts for the big guys of here, you get this much money, but also you have to make a certain number of appearances on the show. In the suit, we're not going to make you film a full crossover episode, but we do need you there.
It's going to be like a scene.
Yeah, maybe exactly. But we're dovetailing pretty hard. Yeah. I do believe that this is going to reward more bad behavior than it helps. I'm very curious to see what happens after this fact. I will not be surprised if this does not continue to dovetail outside of WB to other studios where directors are just going to be listen, I got basically a Kickstarter now of a bunch of people who are going to bully you until you give me my way. You either give me my way or we're done.
I think the only reason that this happened was because of the fan base that Justice League has. I mean, you're talking about the entirety of the people who like reading DC comics, who like these movies for whatever reason or another. I don't think you're going to see that too often. There's just not enough money in the budget to deal with stuff like that. And to come back, you would have to believe you were going to make a profit to do this. And obviously they're testing the waters to see if they can. Because I think they lost way too much money.
Way too much money. I guess we'll see. Mark, do you have any final thoughts before we move on?
No, I think it's going to put WB in a very tight spot. Just they're going to have to either give in or give in. So
yeah. All right. Please let us know what you think about the Snyder Cut in the comments floating above me like a bat signal.
Rob Snyder, specifically Rob Snyder.
Rob Snyder. Yeah. His cut of, I actually would like to see his cut of Justice League. Moving on to the next topic. We're going to continue on down through video games. John, talk to us about the PS5 processing.
So in a Game Informer article by Matthew Cato, there was a corporate strategy meeting where Sony had been talking about the processing power for the PS5, and in particular talking about the solid state hard drive, which we were talking about last week and what we were looking forward to and how we hope that this would better our quality of life, even like past just the graphics. And in the corporate president CEO, Kenichiro Yoshida, God, I always want to like tie those names together, said in his presentation, in order to further enhance the sense of immersion in games, they expected to improve not just the resolution, but the speed of the games. For example, the custom designed high-speed solid-state drive. We plan to realize the game data processing speeds are approximately 100 times faster than the PS4. That is insane. Game load time should be much shorter. Players should be able to move through immense game worlds in almost an instant, which is exactly what everybody really wants out of this, because as these games are getting so much larger with so much more detail, it's taking longer just to get through the games. And whether you're fast traveling or, waiting for the render to catch up sometimes, which can kind of like be a little take you out of the immersion. But a few months ago, Mark Cerny had described the importance of the PS5's solid-state drive and demonstrating how it would not only improve load times, but also give developers ways to improve the way the layout of their worlds are and how players experience them, which was really cool. But to hear about like an actual number of how much better it is than the PS4 is pretty intense, because the difference between the PS4 and the PS4 Pro was already pretty significant. But to hear something of 100 times better than a PS4, I'm really excited to see what that has in store for us and the quality of life in gaming that we're going to see from it.
And not only that, I mean, especially with everything that's happened recently with COVID and stuff, Sony is looking into what they can do to try and push VR, like not just VR in gaming, but VR as a means for people to have entertainment, to be at events or whatnot. Like, I mean, they're showing what the NBA is doing basketball games without people there, and there's other sporting events that are doing something similar. So having that capability where you can have yourself sitting in the seat, and we all know that the PlayStation 4 version of VR is not that great. Like it is the lowest common denominator. It works well for what it's supposed to do. It's cheap and is easily accessible. So having a processor that allows for these kinds of speeds, on top of the fact that you bring in new hardware, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense why they're going this route. It's easy for them to increment on there as they continue their further strategy.
Oh, 100%. I mean, with the way that we've already heard rumblings of new PSVR hardware coming out, or at least being into, there's obviously enough interest in the market right now for them to want to put money towards this research and development, which is good, because with this powerful of a system that is going to be compared to a high-end PC and even rival most of them, I feel like this would be a missed opportunity not to come out with a badass VR system, hopefully wireless, which I don't see happening, but it would be at least better hand. I'll take just better controllers.
What about you, Marcus? Is this any interest? I mean, the problem right now is that we're going off of, hey, it's 100 times faster, and we have some of those specs, but we don't really have a whole lot to go off of it.
So I take some of that with a grain of salt, to the sense that that's marketing.
Yeah. Fair.
Marketing is known to take the most extreme numbers they can on both ends, find the bridge between them, and then say, yep, it's 100 times faster.
Even though we're doing him talking about this in a corporate strategy meeting, he's not trying to impress us as much as he is stockholders, which is still,
My thing is, if it's a corporate strategy meeting, then it's still trade secret information that's being shared there. It's not like it's a shareholder meeting where it's information you're trying to make available to the public necessarily. Like you're taking bits and pieces of it to make available to the public.
Well, Sony will only give us a little bit at a time, Mark, so just be patient.
But that's my point, though.
Yeah.
Like they're giving you the pieces that they want to give you because they sound great. And I'm not going to say that it isn't, because the technology that they're working with exceeds anything that we've seen so far. So the 100 times faster, I think, is just to especially if they're referencing the name PS4 alongside PS5 in a comparative manner. To me, this is their marketing strategy of trying to bring the PS4 people over to the PS5, and this is their way of securing that. Talking through the detailed, I/O specs, the detailed processing specs, whatever, of how well the PS4 performs, what kind of frame rates you get, the storage speeds, the processing capabilities, the available RAM on the device, what kind of wireless chips are in it, that kind of thing. To me, that's actually a target more at the PC and higher end tech community. I think I think they're going for targeted audiences here, and I think this in particular is their baseline of saying PS4 people get a PS5.
I think that's fair. I
agree.
I am with you on the Wi-Fi chips. I want to know, like, what are we capable of for the wireless?
Does it come with AX?
They have shit on everything wireless except for the Pro. Like the PlayStation 4 had a shit card. The Vita had a shit card.
Because the OG PS4 only came with a wireless N card after AC had been out for, I think, 2 years by that point. Or at least a year. To me, like, bleeding edge tech shouldn't have been that far behind already. But and now the Pro fixed that issue and everything else. But it's how they word the press release information that they give. To me, that this is a small tidbit of information, but it gives a lot of context all in one place. But it's targeted at a very specific group of people. I don't own a PS4. To me, this particular thing doesn't mean much. But if I own a PS4 and I play on a PS4 on a regular basis, 100 times better means better frame rates, better quality, storage is a lot better, the experience is a lot better, VR is going to be a lot better, this, that, or the other, and it's a very broad statement to cover all of that.
With the state of play coming up with The Last of Us 2, I think it would be an amazing opportunity, especially with this game coming out very soon, or at least soon after it releases, to send out a video showing what it would look like on the PS4, PS4 Pro, and the PS5, so that you could truly see the difference in how it reacts, either through not necessarily fast travel, but going through movie scenes and load times and graphic fidelity and, any issues that may occur, that you would see the difference of.
I can guarantee they will not show that off until well after the release of Last of Us, because they don't want anybody playing on a PS4 or PS4 Pro to feel like they're playing an older game. Yeah.
But again, if you get a, much like Microsoft is doing theirs, where you bought your PS4 copy, it will transfer over to a PS5 after it releases this year. I think that would be cool. And I think that would also solve that issue, because there's no way they're not making that for PS5.
Well, I mean, they're allowing up to 100 games at launch, remember, to be playable on PS5. So I imagine that The Last of Us Part 2 is probably super high on that list, as well as Ghost of Tsushima. Like, these are games that are coming out this summer that are any major hit on PlayStation that they're putting money behind. Like, even the ones that arguably falter from a sales standpoint, like Days Gone, I guarantee will be playable on PS5.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense otherwise. But to counterpoint you, Mark, I think there's one other thing that's important to state, and it's not necessarily that they're trying to only market. I agree that there's some marketing speech here. They don't want anybody thinking of devices outside the PlayStation family. So, of course, their comparison factor is going to be PS4. They're not going to compare it to high-end PCs unless there's no other benchmark within Sony's standpoint. No.
Good.
I was just going to say, they also will not compare it to Xbox. They just, you're not going to.
So there's a really good talk, actually a TED talk, it was given by Simon Sinek a while back anyway. And an interesting conversation. He had talked about how he had a conversation way back when the iPod and the Zune were competing pieces. So Microsoft had given him a Zune before its launch, and he had gone to Apple, to go with them and see the new iPod, the iPod Video at the time, I think, or the iPod Touch, one or the other.
What about the Nano?
Screw the Nano.
I like the Nano.
The Shuffle's
a piece of shit.
No, but he was talking about how Microsoft would have jumped on the idea because they were constantly talking about the iPod, the iPod, the iPod, the iPod the entire time. Versus Apple, whenever he even told them, like told one of, the presidents or or one of the higher up execs with Apple, like, oh, I've already got a Zune, and I think it's so much better than your current iPod. And apparently the exec just looked at him and says, I'm sure it is. And to me, yes, it could be that Sony is just straight up, like ignoring the Xbox with that sense of they don't want to talk about it. But by the same token, talking about only your products and comparing them to only your own products back and forth says something that you're focused more internally on what you're doing as opposed to trying to compete with the outside world.
Well, especially Xbox saying we're not competing with PlayStation. And it's like, you don't want to be that bully where you're like, yeah, Xbox, yeah. But, and they're like, you don't care. And it's like, yeah.
But the problem, too, is even saying the statement of we're not competing with PlayStation. That already says a lot more things, like even mentioning them altogether is still and it is still an issue in the first place to me if you're trying to focus on your product and how you're building your product. If you're building a good competing product, you don't care what the competitor is doing. You're trying to innovate and do better with your own product. You're only comparing against your own product and trying to make your own products better. And I think Sony's taken a good step here in that.
Shows confidence too.
Right. So I think that's where Sony's taking a better step here in talking about just the PS5 as it relates to the PS4. I will still come back to my previous notion that, this is still a lot of marketing speak, but not mentioning the Xbox, not mentioning comparisons to PCs, I think is more of them trying to retain their own focus on their own stuff. And I commend them on that because they've done great. Based on what they've revealed so far, they're prepping to release great things as far as the PlayStation's concerned. Better yet, if the storage is what they talk about and is as quick as they're mentioning, this could shape the way that PCs are built because the storage capabilities or storage throughput capabilities that the PS5 have will eventually come to the PC.
Which is what Tim Sweeney was talking about last week.
Right. So and the idea is that they're actually innovating here. They're not just iterating a better product or putting better puzzle pieces together. No, they're actually building something unique here. And I'll agree with you there. Like the idea is that they're to me, it seems like they're a better company. They're becoming a better company as a result of it because they're focusing more on themselves and innovating and doing better in the space as opposed to how do we compete.
That is an interesting point, though, of when you only internally make those comparisons, you really do kind of, I wouldn't say shut away the comparison with a competitor with other people in the field, but you really take the focus away from them. And that's something that video games do in general. Like Nintendo and Xbox, they don't compare themselves to they say our competitor if they ever reference. It's never, the Xbox can do this, the PS4 can do this. This is what we can do. It's always, well, this is going to be 10 times faster than the competitor or something like that. But rarely is that even a thing. They almost always internally do the comparison.
Yeah, because even mentioning, oh, we're 10 times faster than the competitor. Well, that's still you trying to be a competitor. You're not. Yeah. You're not. What is it? What is it? He says. Simon Sinek's point here was, you don't win the short race. You don't win the short game. You win the long game, and that's the point.
Yeah. I mean, and that's why I'm amazing at golf is because I can drive like a motherfucker, but I can't chip to save
that dog leg. It goes far, just don't know where.
Please let us know if you're into golf in the comments about John.
Below,
like a 4 ball. I don't know, man. It's going off in the woods. You gotta go chase it down.
See, I just watched Divergent, so saying 4 is something else to me too right now. So
that's funny. God, that movie. Moving on to our final topic of the show. We're gonna lead off with the dispatcher himself, talking about jailbreak. Like you're gonna bring people out of jail. What's going on here?
Yeah, exactly. So we're trying to, our prison systems are completely overflowing, and there's absolutely something we have to do because, there's just too many, it's too much of a, no, I'm kidding. I don't know if I had talked about this here or not, because I know I had mentioned it a few times that I had been considering it. I
Coward.
have switched to the dark side.
Coward.
What?
I have switched to the dark side. I have an iPhone 11 Pro Max. Because I decided, like I've shit on Apple enough times now that if I'm going to continue to shit on iPhones, I may as well at least have an iPhone to shit on. So, no, I'm actually not. I'm not too far off with this product. I actually really enjoy it. And the only gripe I think I had anyway from an old iPod Touch that I had back in high school is jailbreaking. Jailbreaking is something I used to do like back when I first had my iPod Touch. Then I had a Droid X. That was my first Android phone. And I very quickly put a root mod on that. Then I had a Galaxy Nexus. I rooted that phone, and then Nexus 6, and I rooted that phone, and so on and so forth. Like it was just next phone, basically up until my last two, I think, Android phones that I did not root. And the idea, and it became much less of a thing, but the issue came about where there wasn't like a whole lot of customizability that was available, or apps that you could get that were not approved by Apple or Google that, were not available in the store. Now, Android's a little bit different in the sense that Google or Android doesn't care where the app comes from. You can install any app from anywhere, but modifying the operating system to do different things or allow you to do different things was definitely a limitation. So rooting became a thing. Apple is much more restrictive as far as what you can do with the phones. If it's not an approved App Store app, it can't be installed on the device. Yep. So jailbreaking, back in the day, George Hotz, originally a hacker of PlayStations, I think PS3s at the time, had won a lawsuit against Apple that approved jailbreaking. Just a little history here, where Apple had said that it was infringing on their copyright with the software, or was, I guess, it like causing misuse of their brand or their operating system, where George Hotz won. Apple actually lost that lawsuit, where the idea is if you paid for the device, you own the device and everything that's on it minus the trademarks.
Yep.
So he won that in the sense that he can modify his device however he wants. He could brick it, throw it out a window, and smash it if he wants to, and then post it online. Who cares? It's his product. It's his device. So jailbreaking became huge because it definitely blew up amongst the community, and Apple hates it, of course, because they like having their locked down, only our ecosystem kind of devices. So jailbreaking, unfortunately, because of Apple's upgraded security over the last couple of years, has disappeared. Specifically, the last 4 years. I don't remember what version of iOS originally did it, but
we were talking about this before the show.
What's up?
I was just saying we were talking about this before the show.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want a cookie? I'll give you a cookie.
Oh, yay. I get a cookie.
Anyway, the old school jailbreaks anyway were legitimately just a Windows app you installed, you plugged in your phone or your iPod Touch, whatever it was, you clicked a button and it just jailbroke it, installed a black market app store, basically is what it was, where you could get a hold of. Now, this one I don't agree with is paid apps for free. Because paid apps, if you're posting it as a paid app, you want to make money off of it. That's the point. Yeah. And the problem is there's no way for app developers to know whether or not they're getting the paid or free versions necessarily. That's a little bit changed now, of course, because of how your account links into the app itself and everything. But Apple has done their best over the last 4 years to make sure that this isn't a thing. Onboard security chips like hardware has actually prevented quite a bit of this. So now with the latest version, iOS 13.5, there is actually an issue or a loophole that's been found and exploited to get root access to the device, because it is a Unix or a Linux based device to some extent down to the core, just like every other Mac device is. They get root access, install their own apps, and suddenly you have a jailbroken phone.
So I just find this fascinating that it's been 4 years and all of a sudden this is now a capability once again. Like, Was there a breakthrough in their security?
So this is what I was talking to you about before the show too, was so the issue is that if you've got a very stable and solid operating system where you've closed all these loopholes where jailbreaking can happen in the first place, unless you modify or rewrite in some way and change that security or adapt something new, for example, that presents a security loophole, realistically, there's no other way into the device. Like once you've plugged all the holes in the ship, it's not going to sync anymore. That's the thing. And until you redesign the ship, could there be new ways to get in? So there's always, in every version of the operating system that's come out, like over the last 4 years, for example, the community has been diligently watching every update that comes out for the OS and trying its best to tweak and get in and find a way to bypass the operating system, bypass the security to get root access to the device or jailbreak it. It wasn't until 13.5 came out, I guess, or 13, I guess, where they finally redid so much in the underlying operating system that 13.5 suddenly gave them the loophole that they needed to get a foothold.
Okay.
Now, the interesting part there, though, is that once the foothold's been gained, you can't update again, because once you change iOS versions, kind of done. There's really nothing you can do there. So it depends on how the loophole is built. The article, you'll find down in the description below. It doesn't talk too much about what the loophole is or how the loophole is actually built. The application to jailbreak seems just as simple as every other application that's ever been out to jailbreak, from what was it? Poison.
That girl is poison. Sorry,
I'm trying to remember the other names for the apps, because there was always a different program that came out depending on what version you had, and George Hotz always released a different one. Now, granted, the community had taken over since then, but the new one is called Pwned to Owned, PWN to OWND.
It's so like 2008, whatever.
2007 was the first jailbreak that ever happened. So yes, it falls right in line with that.
There you go.
But it seems like a simple process anyway of hook up your phone, click a button, let it do its thing, and you suddenly have a jailbreak. I don't know if the jailbreak community is still going to be the same, since it's been so long since this has been a thing. I cannot remember. I can see the icon for the old black market app store. But I don't see the name of it on here at all. I didn't see the name of it. I cannot remember the name of it offhand. I'll have to look it up. But I'm intrigued to see that this is coming back around. I'm more curious to see how Apple is going to respond to this. Apple doesn't traditionally respond to this well. Normally, it's a kind of a big freak out. And hey, we're going to immediately patch this. We're going to patch that. We're going to, here's 3 updates in a month, and we're gonna try to figure everything out from there. So I don't know. So I don't have any inkling to jailbreak my current phone necessarily. Mostly because, one, I want to get that vanilla Apple experience. And try to understand that, as opposed to, going in and modding it and saying, oh, well, yeah, this is actually pretty good because I, got access to it, or no, this is terrible because it's so unstable or anything. But for those of you that are interested in it, I'd be curious to see what your experience is like. Leave a comment down below. Above
him, like an angel rising from the ashes. That's more like a phoenix, but that's fine. I don't care.
Yeah, sure. Like a pigeon rising from the ashes.
Like a pigeon rising from the ashes.
Do you guys have any kind of opinion on this, or?
I mean, I think it's great because similar to what we've talked about before, Apple is very Spartan with how they have a stranglehold over all their products, which is fair. But also, I think that people want that kind of openness and want to screw around with it. And I am getting more and more involved with these whole hey, I'm going to play around with stuff and modify it. So I get it. I also think that they have really, really stupid terms for how they keep things. I was talking to a friend of ours the other day about how he could access Bluetooth for his app of Pokemon Go, and he has to go into the app settings to change it and all that. I mean, that's my personal vendetta, I guess, against Apple. So I'm just like, yeah, screw those people. Do whatever you want. No, I mean,
Android's like the parents that like smoke weed and don't give a shit. Where Apple's like the super strict parents that don't let their kids out past 9 p.m. So it's like everybody wants that middle ground. Like I want some freedom, but I don't want a piece of crap, and I want it to. But at the same time, if I want to play with it, I want to play with it.
Yeah.
And
well,
Apple is just.
I will say from the perspective of having changed from Android to Apple, it just works sometimes over here. Like a lot of stuff is just very much, it just works. Like I was talking with Brent a little bit beforehand. I had a few snags during setup process and whatnot for things that I really didn't agree with the way that they implemented. But once everything was set up, everything's been smooth. And I personally, this is what I was talking about. I don't personally have a desire to jailbreak this because I would rather just stick with that vanilla experience that it just works kind of mentality at this point. But I also come from a rooting background. I've rooted, I think, the majority of the Android phones that I've had previously. I've installed CyanogenMod. I've installed, what is the name of the? I can see the pink unicorn icon right now for the modded OS, huh?
I was just singing.
Mark's like the psychologist for phones. He also get down to the root cause. He just wants to find everything out.
There you go.
Yes, exactly.
Baby.
I like it. That was good. That was real good.
AOKP, that's what it was.
I think it's fascinating that this arguably this weakness, right, came up out of nowhere. Now, I shouldn't say out of nowhere. I know people have been working on this. Like, I highly doubt the rooting community has just sat on their hands for the past 4 years. Yeah, their laurels. Thank you. Laurel. They've been working on trying to find a way to break it, and now they have that opportunity.
Yep.
So I'm also very interested in Apple's response because they are not kind about this thing.
I'm not okay with the name Laurel or anybody naming their child Laurel ever since Arrow. I think it should be a name that should be banned.
That's fair. That's fair.
So the interesting part here too is Ponta owned the developer anyway. Had and now this is a sourced from a Vice article or a Vice interview. But he had told Vice that they did not think that their success represented a change in the status quo. And this is a quote from the Guardian article description. Instead, iOS was, quote, just a big target for attackers. They said, quote, Apple is constantly adding more features to iOS that introduce new attack surfaces. So, yes, you can jailbreak your device. Yes, you can get the black market app store if there is still one even available because jailbreaking has not been around for so long. However, that's not what this was meant to represent. It was meant to represent more that there is a security flaw because Apple keeps implementing new features, new avenues to get into the device and more features to make it more usable as a social device, as a a personal assistant device, whatever, so they were just exploiting a new way to get in, and rather, I guess, than just go to Apple with it, they decided to go public with it and develop a program to make it available for you to jailbreak your phone. And
as one does,
but,
right?
There's tons of ways to do things. Like Google can tell a company that there's a security flaw. They just don't go public with it until about 6 months after it's been patched. But whatever.
But it's also not his responsibility or her.
No.
Or whoever.
Oh no, absolutely not.
Yeah. They're allowed to do it. They do what they want.
Doesn't mean he has to develop an application or a program to be able to jailbreak the devices. But whatever.
Hear me out. He does what he wants.
That's true. That's true.
Please let us know in the comments floating above, Mark, like a very curious cloud. Also a curious clown. Just what you think about jailbreaking iPhones. Are you happy that it's back? Are you going to do it to your own? Are you going to buy new iPhones to jailbreak yourself, much like I did with this?
Is this going to last past 13.5, or is it just going to disappear here in about 2 months whenever Apple patches it?
We'll find out. Let us know in the comments floating above.
Below.
half the people like a boner, and the other half of people are like scared for their life.
Scared, yeah. I mean, fortunately, they didn't show the image of the clown because then that would be real bad. But now I think it's time for last call.
Last call.
That just sounds so fucking awful.
It's so bad. Like I said, it is a train wreck that just gets worse every single week.
You 100% don't have to go home, but you sure can't stay here. Of course, we have our own special guest here. I am drinking coconut water with a delicious coconut rum that John bought for me in Hawaii. In my little tiki mug. So, in my little tiki mug. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. And then I also had a northern lager. I almost said southern lager from Oxbow Brewing, which is rather tasty. The glare is pretty significant. So, there you go. What about you guys? What are you drinking?
Old fashions, baby. Got my got what's left of here, less of this. My Black Barrel.
Wow, what kind of whiskey?
It is Black Barrel, man.
We had some of those this weekend. It was rather tasty.
Like a whole bottle and a half.
We don't need to talk about that. What about you there, Mark?
I am drinking me a good Robert Mondavi private selection. Cabernet.
I'd go the Pinot Noir myself, but Robert Mondavi private selection is delicious regardless.
Yeah, my favorite still is the bourbon aged, or the bourbon barrel aged.
Absolutely.
Oh, so good.
So tasty. Of course you can
bourbon barrels.
Of course, you can join us on our Discord where there's plenty of people talking and playing games. You, of course, can reach out to us as well. You can, I was going to say watch us stream this, but I don't think that's a good idea. So, no, you should watch it. You should just join the Discord.
We'll work on that one.
And, of course, we have the weekly deal from Humble Bundle. They have a Humble Bandai bundle. So, Bandai Namco or Namco Bandai, I can't ever remember. It's Bandai Namco now. It used to be Namco Bandai.
What?
I'm not joking. Like, they actually swapped the name because they're technically two companies that own like the one entity, and one bought more shares over the other, so they swapped the name.
That's some self-righteous bullshit right there.
It's fantastic. For $1, you get Pac-Man 256, which is a great game. Get Even, I've never played myself. However, Handsome John, Enslaved Premium Edition on Steam for $1. That's right.
$1.
It's like playing that game on PC
with your PS4 controller. With that, if you pay more than the average, which is 11.08 at time of recording, you get the .hack GU Last Recode, which is the GU series. It's 3 games in 1. You get Katamari Damacy Reroll. I've never played that one. And then Rad, which is a great game. It's a dungeon-esque crawler game from Double Fine Studios. And then for $15 or more, which is only $4 more than the average, you get Tekken 7 and Tales of Berseria. I've heard Tales of Berseria is fantastic. I've yet to play it myself. That's kind of tempting me there. And finally, for $25, you would also get the Dark Picture Anthology Man of Medan. Sorry. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games for $25 from the Namco Bandai collection.
Dang.
There was not a whole lot happening this week, so that's all we got for our shout outs. But finally, we have the question of the week, which comes from Handsome John himself. What is the worst thing that has happened to you while playing a video game? John, why don't you kick it off?
I had a game that I had spent, I don't even know, it had to be at least 40 or 60 hours on. I don't know what I was doing with that game. I was playing Assassin's Creed 3, and it's not just this game, but multiple games. But this game was enough hard hitting where I was completing entire missions and wasn't getting trophy pops. And I was well on the way of getting the platinum to this game. And in order to do it, I would have to replay it at least once. And that's hoping that it wouldn't crash again. And this was a glitch that was happening rampantly. This was not like, oh, you're part of like the 1%, and if you do it again, it probably won't happen again.
Yeah.
No, it was like really bad. And the same thing happened with Liberation, where I went and got all the alligator eggs, and it was like, nope, no trophy for you. And let me tell you how fun it was. Like, I'm not replaying that game again. I played the remastered later on, but I'm not playing that again on Vita. That was rough.
It's there's nothing worse than losing out on trophies when you care about trophies. That happened to me with Ether 1.
Yeah.
But I think my worst gaming experience came from when I was a young lad. I was in middle school and I had a PS2, which back in the day, for some of you youngsters, you don't know this, we had corded controllers. So I had a PS2. I know, playing Final Fantasy VII, and I had it on my dresser next to my bed. So it was like my dresser, my bed. There's about like maybe 1.5 foot gap. And I had the cord stretched out there. And my younger brother, Mitchell, decided to run in because he was super excited to come watch his older brother play video games. And he clotheslined the cord, which then brought the PS2 slamming down. And I'm talking like it's like a tall chest of drawers onto the ground.
Wait, was it the old like thick style, the OG, or the small book? Oh no.
No, the old thick bad boy, which is heavy, surprisingly heavy for what it is. So at the moment in which it makes contact with the ground, my mother runs into the doorway and it's just like, what happened? And then looks at me, looks at the PS2, looks at my younger brothers and goes, get out now. And they leave. PS2 died. It was officially dead. I had to use a flathead screwdriver to pry it open so I could get my disc out and my memory card. And to make matters worse from my young brain, like as an adult, I completely comprehend and understand what my father did for me. But as a young child, I was very frustrated. I asked for a PS2 for Christmas because this broke in the fall. And my dad went to the store and the person who works in the electronic department convinced him to buy an Xbox because it was the new gaming console out, not the PS2. Yeah. So, I think it's probably the worst.
Unfortunate.
Oh God. Well, for me, so this kind of shaped, I guess, or changed the way that I played games I guess now, because I don't go for the grindy stuff, anymore. Mm-hmm. I don't like playing games, I guess, that require me to spend an absolute butt ton of time, just to really get in and that kind of thing. I enjoy the stuff that I can refine over time, playing the same type of style or adapting my style. I enjoy my Rocket League. I enjoy playing Call of Duty here and there, that kind of thing. Yeah. Quick rounds. So when I was younger, I was all about grinding. I played Gran Turismo 2, I think, for the entire time that I had a PlayStation 2 until the Xbox 360 came, until a year after the Xbox 360 came out. Religiously. I mean, every day. Okay. So I found a particular type of race that I could do that would help me get enough money and eventually like a car that I can unlock, essentially that was so much better in performance and the stats look so much better and this, that, the other, and it took me like a couple weeks to just grind out this race and win it and over and over and over and over and over again for me to really get there, because I realized there was a certain point I guess I had hit, or like where I'd done something wrong with the way that I upgraded or bought cars, that I wasn't winning races anymore. Like I just couldn't. So I found one race that gave a decent amount of money, had a car that I could unlock, and then just continue to grind this. Okay. And I got bit. The car sucked ass. The car did not do anything for me on the other side. I still lost the rest of my races after the fact. I grinded for at least a month and a half. As a kid at like 13 years old, grinded and just could not. It was just not worth it on the other end. So it was like all of this effort for nothing. Now, it should have taught me the lesson to probably pay more attention. However, it's just taught me the lesson of I don't want to grind games anymore because, F that shit, I guess. But that was the first time I got burned. The second time actually, I guess, really taught me the lesson. I had I don't know, it was like a cheaper like drift game, basically, you could get. It had licensed cars and the whole deal. But it was exactly the same result. I grinded and grinded and grinded and grinded and grinded the car I had and the types of races that I knew I could win and the way that I knew I could win them. And I bought like this. It was a Lexus, and I remember that specifically. Had much better power performance standard setup, but it was so damn heavy you couldn't drive the thing or drift the damn thing. So it became completely useless to me. That one I arguably wasn't as bad as the 6 weeks I probably spent on Gran Turismo, but what was it called now? Tokyo Racer, Tokyo Drifter, something like that, or Tokyo Racer, something like that. I can't remember what the hell it was. It was even before the whole Tokyo or what was it? Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, but
arguably one of the best movies.
Similar type of
it's
like
about family.
Similar type of like street racing style, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But it was just so frustrating that I just could not, like, it was just not worth it at the end. And now
we're going to talk about grinding. I've got one more great story for you. I knew Brent wanted me to talk about this because it's what I thought about when I made this up, and I was like, you know what? I'll just tell both stories. That's fine. The worst part is we love Division 2. I've spent a total cumulative of 15 days playing this game.
Jeez. A lot, yeah.
Yeah, like, and granted, like when I played Black Ops 2 with Brian, same amount of time on online multiplayer, easy. Like it adds up pretty quickly. And we've been playing this game for what, a year and a half now?
Yeah, less than that because it came out in March of last year.
Okay, so I mean, relatively, like it's not that much time when you're talking about more than a year.
Yeah.
There is special stuff going on, different programs going on with the DLC right now, and as a reward for you completing such things, you can get an exotic cachet. Or cash. I keep saying cachet just to Mr. Sean. Now I'm saying it normally now. You get an exotic cash. Right. And I had messed up and not played the week before. You get 2 weeks in order to earn enough points to get these items. Well, I messed up the first week, got like 3 points, and you need like 58. So I needed to almost complete every single thing I could do in the next week in order to get this cash. I did. Hey. I completed it. And I ended up getting it. And I got an exotic that I already have. And it made me, I filmed it. It's on Marco Polo. I wish I could strip it from there and we could post it because it is one of the most disappointing things. Granted, it was a fully loaded chatterbox. I already have a chatterbox. I already have a Liberty. I already have a Pestilence. Like all the DC exotics I have. Now, I did it this past weekend where I did the same thing. And I'm like, okay, it's a new system. Let's see if I can get, a different exotic. And it gave me a Liberty pistol from the DC exotic list.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, there is an entire set of exotics I do not own in both clothes and guns from New York. And I can't get one of them.
Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
And it is just, it makes you want to cry.
It real bad. It real bad. Yeah, RNGesus can definitely be a bitch, to say the least.
Yes, had that fun whenever I was trying to get the Valorant beta.
Yep. But please let us know what your terrible gaming moments are in the comments, floating above John like an angry cloud of exotic caches just raining down on him. Caches. But they're only filled with exotic weapons he owns.
Caches.
And until next time, cheers.
Cheers.